looking at the topic of what about mental illness and addictions in marriage. My name is Lee Balcom, and I'm the Internet's leading marriage expert. You know, marriage under the best of circumstances is tough. To hold it together, it's just tough. If you add on the issues of mental illness or addiction, many marriages fail. When I'm talking about mental illness, here we're talking about primarily depression, bipolar disorder, anxiety, those kinds of mental illnesses, not schizophrenia. Schizophrenia is oftentimes a showstopper just because it begins to be so debilitating. So really talking about depression, anxiety, bipolar disorder, those kinds of issues. Addiction, we're talking about both process addiction and chemical addiction. Process addiction being things like gambling, it could be sex, it could be pornography. When we're talking about chemical, it could be any drugs or alcohol, those kinds of things. And whenever those are present, that's what we're dealing with. Understand, though, that both situations, both mental illness and addictions, can be treated and can be managed. But if you leave it untreated, either will eat away at a marriage until it's impossible to turn it around. So let me be clear, one at a time. If you or your spouse suffer from an addiction, you will be unsuccessful in dealing with marital issues unless the addiction is first addressed. If you or your spouse suffer from a mental illness, you will be unsuccessful in dealing with marital issues unless the illness is first addressed and treated. Now, I say this because if you can address the issue and get a handle on it, you can then begin to work on the marital issues, but you can't do it in the reverse order. You can't wait until the marriage is back together to work on those issues because they are constantly getting in the way. So if it is your issue, if you're the one with the addiction or the mental illness, seek help from a qualified professional first, then follow the professional's treatment plan. That qualified professional can be a therapist, it can be a psychiatrist, your family doctor, somebody who can help you figure out how to get treatment for the mental illness or for the addiction. Then be clear with your spouse that you are seeking treatment and are committed to dealing with the problem. Don't say you're doing it because of the marriage. Say you're doing it for you. You can't deal with the marital issues unless you deal with your own issues. Now, if it is your spouse's issues, it's a little more sticky. Be clear that he or she needs to get help before you can address the marriage. Just be clear about that. If you want to deal with our marriage, you're going to have to deal with your alcoholism, your depression, your whatever. And also remember that you cannot force a person to get help. Remember that, but you also do not have to watch the family be destroyed. You may have to take action. If the person refuses to get help, you may have to take action to protect yourself, to protect your kids, to protect the family that's left. But you cannot take over. You cannot force them to get help, and you cannot take over that process. That's something they have to do for themselves. So let's say that you have already done that. You've addressed your issues, your spouse has addressed their issues, then you might be ready to save your marriage. And if you want to learn more about saving your marriage, I want you to go now to www.savethemarriage.com. That's www.savethemarriage.com.